Okay.
Start.
Hello, welcome viewers to KDRTV today. We welcome you very warmly. Hopefully that things are going well wherever you are, individually and with your families. We're so happy again to welcome you to another discussion about issues that are affecting our community. But more importantly, today we're going to focus on the upcoming elections of MWANYAGETINGE, which is obviously our umbrella organization. The organization has been here for many, many, many years, and it's what defines who we are. So we are living in a very pivotal moment when we have to decide the direction of and which we have to take as we move forward as a community. So today we're not going to have the regular discussions that we do have in previous discussions. We are going to have a pretty much an informational session. And by so doing, we are honored to have on the show today the Electoral Commission of our organization, MWANYAGETINGE, who are going to take us through what the process is and what we anticipate to have in the next 1 or 2 months when we have the next elections. So honored again to have on the set today. I'm going to introduce this ones here very quickly. We are honored to have Evans Mayaka Onjiri, who is the Director of Elections and Secretary of MWANYAGETINGE Advisory Council. He also represents a Basi organization in the council. So I think he's going to take us through the process of what is expected. We are also honored to have on set somebody who is obviously very familiar within the community and quite frankly very respected in our community. We owe you a lot of respect. Japhet Kimaiga was former chairman of MWANYAGETINGE organization and also is currently the chairman of MWANYAGETINGE Advisory Council. He also is the chairman of Osweta Bomachoge. So Mr. Kimaiga will obviously come in and try to give us a sense of direction of where we need to go. Also to join us any moment during this presentation will be Rhoda Moronge. I think most of you know who Rhoda Moronge is, a very respected woman within our community. Obviously, we need to hear the voices of women population, and Rhoda Moronge will try to give us that insight. But unfortunately, at the moment, she's at work and she will join us anytime during this presentation. So pretty much what I'm going to do is to introduce Evans so that he can take us through what is it that they're up to. Evans.
Jamayo Kari. I'm pleased to be here today to talk about the upcoming elections, which will be held on the 1st and the 2nd of August. So I know there are lots of questions about the process and where the organization is going and where we are having elections at this time. So to take you through, this process started about a year ago, actually almost to the day. It was about July, was it 20th or somewhere there last year, when a group of community members met and we started brainstorming on what to do, because at that point the elections have been called and unfortunately no one was interested in vying for the positions. So when we came together, there were lots of people that came, lots of our elders. I remember the late Dr. Nyambane was there. We talked about where the organization started. They gave us a brief history of where we started, and then people asked questions, and it was a full room of people. So at that point, during the discussion, an idea was floated around to organize the organization, to find a team that can find out what's going on with the organization, write it, bring it where it's supposed to be. So a committee of about 12 or 13 of us were chosen, and we started this process. We started by collecting views from church elders. We collected views from community elders, women groups, the youth, and we also sent out a survey to the community to look at some of the issues that were actually making the organization kind of disappear from the midst of, our midst. So we did the process. It took a long time, so many meetings, and I want to thank Dr. Omandi for giving us space at his offices where we met every day and for being the facilitator of everything. So on March, sometime in March last year, I think it was March 19th, we met. We came back to report, to give the community a report of what we were doing and with what we were tasked to do. So on that particular day, we did bring the report to the community, and some of the recommendations that were in the report included amending the Constitution to make some changes so that the organization is more inclusive. Because what we found out that the organization was dying because there was no interest from people. There were lots of people that were dissatisfied and disengaged because maybe there were some reasons that were given. There was a lot of splinter groups that were formed that were clan-based. There were others that were region-based. And we wanted to bring all those people together. One of the recommendations that was made was to have county representatives. So we divided the metro counties into 8 sections, with Hennepin having 2, and the other counties like Scott, Anoka, Ramsey, Washington, Carver, and Dakota County, and which one am I forgetting? Were divided, were given each 1 slot each. That was included in the Constitution. And we also made other recommendations that were not based on amending the Constitution. Others were to revive the community engagements, that some of the things that the community was doing before, like health programs. People talked about, through the survey, people say they want to see some form of a benevolent group that will bring people together. So those are some of the recommendations that we put forward to the leadership of MWANYAGETINGE, the one that is going to be elected this coming month. So we did complete the Constitution. The draft has been sent to the people, and then we were tasked with organizing the elections, which are going to happen this August. So with the elections, because of COVID-19, initially, our plan was to have the elections in May of this year. But because of the COVID-19 situation, we were not able to have the elections as planned. So we did come together and brainstorm, and we shopped around, and we got ideas from different places, and we agreed on having the elections happen online through e-ballot. eBallot.com is a website that has been used by credit unions, and we were looking through some of the organizations that use them for elections, like St. John University and what I think some Penn State Alumni Association uses it for elections. So we chose them, and it's pretty cheap. It's at $240 a year to conduct elections based on 300 members. If we have 500 members, maybe we would do more. So some questions have been asked about security of the elections. Would people be able to vote twice, for example? And that is, I'll tell them, I'll assure them 100% that the elections will be secure, because what happens is that once you register as a member, we are going to give you a secure code to use, a username and secure code to use. So we are going to issue that to your email. So for example, if we have 300 members, we are going to issue 300 secure codes. And once that code is used to cast the ballot, it cannot be reused again. You can only vote once, you can't vote twice. And the results of the election are actually instant. At the end of the election time, the web page is going to tabulate the results and then send us a PDF for us to share with the members. And one thing I was reading through is that if somebody has a complaint, maybe they didn't agree with the elections, they can be able to access, we can give them access to the our portal to look at the elections and see if there's anything that was suspicious. So we were very transparent as we plan going forward. So another thing that people were talking about as the committee of that was chosen, the caretaker committee, we had the ideas that we wanted for the organization to have running the programs like a health program, like a youth program. Some of those were emphasized as when the elections happen, those are the things that we want the community organization to do. For example, ideas were floated around about having teen nights, doing some sporting events for teens and for the youth. For example, having a soccer tournament, maybe a basketball tournament, and having those teen nights. And that's why we actually need people to come together and have a community center for us as Omogusi in Minnesota, so that we can easily have those young people come to those events and maybe have a night where the older people like us would come and talk to the younger population, our kids. Because right now, as you know, there's a lot of things happening. A lot of our young people are started to get into illegal drugs, and some of them are not even going to college, and other things are happening. So it would be a night to connect those youth, the youth that, for example, those ones who are going to college, who have been to college, who are going to college, can advise the ones who are going to high school about what is a college experience and maybe share ideas. And I also was going to tell you that the caretaker committee was not just doing elections. We also partnered with the current leadership of MWANYAGETINGE to apply for COVID-19 grants. The application has been done with Hennepin County, and we are at the second stage of review right now to receive some funds for COVID-19 situation in Minnesota. And then another thing we are doing is we have in contact with the state, and I know that some discussions have been held, and we are in the process of making another application to get some grants from the state. So those are the things that the new leadership, when it's chosen, will take over and try to get them complete and bring our community together and maybe solve some of the challenges that we have right now.
Evans, I want to stick with you for a moment. Thank you for that quick brief view of what you guys are doing as a commission, and much appreciation, obviously, from us. You're doing a great job. As you know, MWANYAGETINGE is who we are. It's been here for a very long time. And over that period of time, there's been obviously transformation in leadership and the way we approach the organization. Maybe the question for you, and probably on behalf of your commission, how different is the current look of MWANYAGETINGE from what we've had in previous years?
One thing that is going to be different once these elections are done and everything is up and running, it's been, I don't know if I've used the word expand, but it's been this scope, it's been expanded a little bit, because we try to avoid the narrow scope that it used to have. Because what has happened with our community in the Twin Cities is that people have moved out to different counties. And I just found out that people live in Isanti County and Wright County and Sherburne County. So what has happened is that churches are moved out. People don't meet as we used to meet in the past. That is one thing that really affected the organization, because when you run for an election and you hear MWANYAGETINGE elections are happening, and maybe a few friends who go to the same church run and win, and you end up having just people who have same interests. So what we did is to expand the leadership to different counties. So these county representatives are going to have, we envision where they will have some, like a committee, a county committee based on the cities that they represent. They will choose some committee that will gather views and bring them to the organization. Those are some of the things that will look different. Another thing that will look different is transparency. We have an issue. Sometimes it's talked, I don't know if it's a myth or it's true. You know, in our community, we talk about people not really being honest with money and issues of integrity and all that. So what we have done is we have put in place a new constitution that requires the treasurer to update the members quarterly about the financial status of the organization. They also send the reports at the end of the year to members. So we are trying to be more open so that we don't have these issues where there's skepticism or people not believing that their money is being taken care of with seriousness. Also, another issue that is going to be different is that the people through the survey that we sent asked for a benevolent group. Some people didn't like it, but the majority of the people wanted to have a benevolent group back to the community because I think for some reason it these kind of problems of debts tend to bring people together. So this will be an issue that will be dealt with. Another issue is that in terms of education, we want to emphasize about giving scholarship to our kids and the youth who are trying to go to college. For example, we were sitting around and we have this idea that we threw out about what if every member gives $10 a month? That is $120 a year. What if there are 500 members? You multiply 120 by 500. That's about $60,000 a year. We can set up an education fund with $60,000 a year based on $10 a month for 500 members, and that 60,000 can be a scholarship that can send our youth to technical colleges or to four-year colleges. Those are some of the things that might be look different. And my hope and belief is that when the new leadership comes, they are going to walk. They're going to walk us through what they're going to do, and maybe they will take some of this vision and dreams that we have and to make it possible. That's my belief and hope.
Yeah, as we hope to have Rod on the call shortly. So let me bring in Japheth. Japheth, of course, you've led the organization before, and your contribution to the community is very admirable. Personally, I have tremendous respect for you as a person and what you continue to do for our community. So one of the best ways when we're talking about marketing an organization like ours, which obviously has had challenges, is to, based on what I hear you guys say, you're talking about expanding it from on a geographic aspect. So you're saying from the Twin Cities, let's go to different counties. You're looking at it from a geographic perspective. That's it, what I hear. Geographic means that we might also decide to go beyond the state of Minnesota to other states. We might talk about that as well. What of members who are not within the state of Minnesota or who are in cities in the countryside. You also have to look at an organization from a more demographic representation. And I think one of the questions you've seen there from one of the viewers is, unless there is inclusion, or unless the diversity and inclusion, then there is a problem. And I think that's a problem we've had from the community. Japheth, how are we going to include everybody in the community? So we're talking about men, of course, who have been very active in the organization. We're talking about women. We're talking about young people who are very vibrant and who we really should be involved in the discussion so that we can move the organization forward. So how are we involving the other groups in the community, Japheth?
Thank you so much, Professor. First of all, I want to thank my colleague Evans for taking us through to what actually the committee has been doing, and in line to making sure that we have a way forward in making our community even more stronger and with unity. One of the questions that you did ask earlier that Evans tackled very well goes along with how do we trust one another? How do we make this one different from the previous one that we have always been having people are being called to the meeting, they do not come, and mostly you find that in terms of money-wise, no one is being trusted. I want to start by saying that each person needs to be very responsible. Sometimes we put our leadership into the office, we do not contribute any money, but we are too fast to start saying that account for the money that's not even there. So my challenge here today is that each one of us needs to come out. If we talk about registration, in most cases you find that registration is done only once and mostly when election is being done. But between this until the end of the term, maybe for 2 years, you do find that nothing is there to be able to support the community. Now, when we consider about what has been happening, and again, I thank the community because they give me a chance to serve as their president for a period of 2 years. And during this time, the only way we were able to get assistance was through the MDH, that was a system helping with the disease of like HIV. Later on, other communities who copied actually what the Kenyans were doing, they went ahead and started their own. Within a short period of time, they were so much competitive, and that grant was never there again to be continued. But again, I want to share here with the passion that yes, these are quite different. As you can see, we do have the advisory committee, whereby it includes people from all the other like constituencies. Talk of from Basi, Nyaribari, Kitutu, Bonchari, Umachoge, Mugirango. We talk about West Mugirango and North Mugirango. All those peoples, we do encourage their services at their level size. But guess what? This is the first time that we ever came back, we say, Manyagetinge is bigger than all these organizations that require each one of us to come together to share ideas, because we do have professionals who can be able to have some information, but unless we come together and join hands, we cannot be able to reach the far end that we want to be able to reach. And again, I want to share that, for example, we do have not only the 80 constituents that we have indicated. Again, here we do have like people from the pastoral perspective. We do have like, for example, right now, Pastor Ricky and Pastor Maina, who are there to give the inspirational words of wisdom. And anytime we have a situation or a challenge, it's not only tackled from the church perspective, that it can be able to accommodate other areas so that to bring the services even close together. We do have also from the elders council, so we do have Elder Gilbert Nyavicha, who was also included to be able to come and be part of expansion to this. Business-wise, also was never left behind. We do have people like David Bichanga, who is really acting pretty much okay. We have from women ministry. In a minute or so, we might be able to get hold of Rota Moronge, who is also representing in terms of women and others behind that. Even in terms of youth, we want to have them. They are forced to be heard. And of course, we do have one by name Geoffrey Ongori is representing the youth to be able to continue doing this. Now, Professor, if you allow me, I would have to say this. It is always easier to say that we have a community, but when we have a situation that we are so much divided, that anytime that we have something that we can big together because of our numbers, and actually our numbers really good. But when it comes that coming together and be able to make right the issues that we have, most members are really far to be reached. In my own opinion, the best way we can be able to do this, we can be able to save even much money if we start things like a credit union. In turn, we can talk about the benevolent. If we have like more than 1,000 people comes together, instead of one person spending over $50, guess what? You can only pay like $10, and that's able to cover any expenses that is associated with the benevolent and other aspects. Now, like today, here we do have Professor, you are there. If you would not have you with this kind of information, that we are able to use this situation like this to reach more people, we could not be able to have this wonderful thing that going on without really coming together. And I want always to encourage you, any chance that you get, share this information. But I really want to emphasize one thing which is really, really important, that previously we do not have respect to one another. If you see your friend coming up with something, instead even of supporting our community, we want just to make sure that we teach them. You don't want someone to come up. This cannot continue. If you have someone who's doing insurance for the vehicles and within our community, support those people. If you have someone who is doing with education, continue seeing these people. They can really make a big difference, making sure that we move forward. Otherwise, we can be coming together only when there's a situation that comes once, but this is not really enough. We can always intervene with most of the programs that are out there, and we'll be able to help our people in terms of education, in terms of other, spectrum that most of us have been sharing.
We're still live, and I see here Rhoda is calling on the other hand. Bernard, if you could work from your end to have Rhoda on, that would be great. Meanwhile, a question I have here for you, Evans. Do you mind very quickly reading out who are the members of the commission for our audience, please?
That question I will let Elder Kimaiga answer the question of who are the members of the commission. Is the chairman is the what is his name again? I don't know why my brain is not working yet.
Probably, I can be able to chip in with your permission, and actually, again, Professor, that's a good question to understand who are the members of the Electoral Commission. Part of the Constitution, under actually Section 513, when it talks about the Advisory Council, is one of that composes, prints the composition of those who can be electoral commissioners. Right now, we do have, if I can read those names, if that goes well with you, I shall be able to say that. We do have people like Evans Onjiri is actually the returning officer. We do have people like Gilbert Atima. We do have like Rota Morongi who are there. We do have people like Samuel Ogoro. We do have people like also Jacob Mabera, Hesbon Zimber, and of course people like Jeremiah Onzongo. All those are included, but based on my position, I am the only one who cannot be part of that commission. I hope that answers the question.
It does, thank you. And another question I have for you here, and I think some of these questions are coming from people viewing this. They ask, as soon as we have the elections, what will happen to the council? Will the council come to an end, or will it continue to exist? And if it does, how will you work in partnership with the new leadership?
That's yet a good question. I want to answer that straight, directly, that the council continues to be there, because it's one of that to be advocate of the organization from the day one when this happens. It serves actually not only as electoral commission, but also oversees the functions of the and the custodian of the constitution, and also it is there also to arbitrating differences between the members of the organization as well.
Rhoda to come on the call, but I have a question for both of you. I want you to straight to the camera. One of the problems that I've been monitoring very closely the discussions on our website, on our WhatsApp and Facebook regarding who is who, and particularly the role of female population. And I think that's very critical. Both of you understand how this is critical to our success as an organization. Please look straight to the camera and talk to our female population as we wait for Rhoda to come in. Talk to them. Why is it important that they participate in this process? Evans, let's start with you, and then Chafet.
The reason why I think it's important that they participate is that I find women to be better leaders, and my hope was that a woman would run for president. As of right now, no one is running for president. It's a man. All the seats, I have two ladies running for positions. One of them is running for treasurer. I'm not at liberty to disclose the names. And then another one is running as a board member. I would have wished to have more of them run because, it's important to have their views, because we are not just creating an organization for men, we're creating an organization for the community. And we do not have a community without women. They're part and parcel of what we're trying to build. So, but the sad thing is that I don't know why we've had participation from the other side, from women, has been a little bit underwhelming. I don't know why. There could be reasons why that it happens like that, and maybe it has to do with something about the past, how the organization was run. Because when I look at the current organization, I don't know if they have women there. I'm not very conversant of every position that is there, but I think women should be there. So what we have done to kind of tackle this problem is the advisory council has some ladies in there. We have Rhoda, we have who else do we have? Jeff, Mr. Lekimaga. Do we have anyone else other than Rhoda? Because we have a women rep and we have a youth. We have a young woman as a youth. I don't remember who her name is. And it's really important they do come. But I think the problem is are we reaching them out? Maybe that is what I think is the problem. Are we reaching them out? Are we talking to them? Because I do really believe, I want to reiterate that I personally think they're better leaders than men.
Okay.
Deeply concerned, and I would love to see us grow as an organization. So I don't want to do the moderation part of it. I also want to be part of the community. So you did highlight when you're getting in town, you guys expanding geographically. That's a good move. We appreciate that. We're also talking about demographically. That's an issue that we really have to pay very close attention to. So if we're talking about the older generation, the medium generation, the younger population, you're talking about the male versus female, you're talking about the business community, you're talking about the religious community. We're looking at that from a demographic perspective. That's important to understand their collective mindset if we are to grow. But there's also another aspect that you really have to pay attention to, and that is the product part of it. And I think, Japheth, you've led the organization successfully before. One of the downsides of MWANYAGETINGE, with all due respect, is the fact that we've had Springer groups which have gone to constituencies, and pretty much the framework from which you're basing this expanded Fast Innovate is based on that fact. Are we moving away, or are you envisioning a situation where we move away from pure concentration on Matanga? We do very well here, and I love that fact about our people. But are you considering us moving also or expanding that line of it? For example, education, healthcare, counseling, and spirituality. Are you considering us moving beyond Matanga to other things? Japheth.
I want to thank you once again, Professor, for that question. But before I can answer that, may allow me to talk a little bit about our ladies representing this organization, which is really a key element that all of us wants to see ladies being not only to be seen, but just to be there to participate. One of the factors we have to agree that our ladies are really, really not been given chance to participate the same way they're supposed to do. One of the factors that I normally see, and I'm so much not happy about it, is the way we handle the business. You know, if you don't find people having respect, ladies cannot tolerate that kind of issue. When you just talk even without filtering what you want to come out of your mouth, ladies have always been there whenever they are given a chance. they perform exemplary well and they deliver services. You can see them from the churches and other communities. Once you give a lady something, for sure she will deliver. May I state here clearly in front of the camera that we have a lady president in our organization. She can always count for her vote. And by then, I want to assure them that do not fear, because this is not the normal way that we've been learning the MWANYAGETINGE before. If you can see, that's why we think that even the advisory board is there, that if anyone tries even to bring something in divisible manner, this will always be dealt with. That's why we have pastors. We have just from the elderly people to the youth. All these people will come together and say that, you know what, we need peace of mind. We need to protect our ladies. And actually, they are even more in numbers than us. So I'm really encouraging ladies wherever they are. They have our support by all means. Now, coming to diverse data, we want to either to learn from Matanga and this aspect. Professor, I want to say, no, we are not running from Matanga. Matanga will always be there, but will be treated the same way it comes. But guess what? Each constituency is represented by a given welfare that deals with Matanga, and which is fine. But what can we do differently? For example, we can come as large numbers at MWANYAGETINGE, as we say, instead of contributing $100 every week, because we have so many people who lose their loved ones. And guess what? If you know you are part of the community, you have nothing, but you still contribute. So how do we save the family from this situation? Is to come together using our numbers to be able to either contribute $10 towards a welfare that we can set aside within MWANYAGETINGE that can take care of that. After doing that, guess what? We have saved money-wise that can be spent in terms of education. And you know, that's why we have professors here, you know, with teachers around here who've been performing very well. They have so much good resources, but some of them have not been tapped. Yes, we want to look in terms of even healthcare. We cannot continue like this, because we do have, like now, people even come from home, your parents, they cannot get help, and unless and otherwise, you want, and we only have a very few, like healthcare personnel, like mostly like doctors, and allow me to use like Dr. Karanji, Dr. Bogonko, Dr. Joya. Those are the ones we keep calling that we have a situation. How do we help this? But guess what? Now, if we come as a community and identify those people, we can give them a challenge that this area, you are the experts, deal with this. We look for those people dealing with education, give them where they can be able to help us. Those are professions on how we can handle things, and this can turn around our community to be able to do differently how we were doing our work before. I'm not sure if I've answered all the questions, but we are here to respond.
Question for you, but before I go, if you see down on the screen, there is a question for you. The question is from Neema Mora. Thanks, Neema, for the question. She's asking, which ladies are you expecting to participate when you keep your own wives away from the media and the public participation? So that's one voice from one of the ladies in the community. Could you both of you please talk directly to the men? Are we keeping our wives away from participation?
That's Mora. Morandega, I want to thank her for such a wonderful question. Without Maurice, there are so not very many ladies responded to our call to be part of a situation like now we are doing, and we are struggling. But one thing I want to assure you is that we are starting from somewhere. But our goal and the focus is actually to have the ladies lead, then we can be able to follow. And as I said before, I have a lady in my house. And I will tell you that unless we support them, and that's why I'm talking directly in the camera, unless we learn to respect them and give them chance, listen to them, then we might not be able to understand what they have at stake. My challenge today is even now, reach us to us and offer where you believe that you can be able to give services. And personally, I will say this. I approached quite a number of them, even to be part of their council. Some of them have not responded, and some of them are those people that I respect so well. And as I said, I cannot blame any of them. Their question is that what makes them us think that we have changed from the way we've been behaving before. But let me assure you that each time the time are coming with the changes. Allow me to connect one thing as far as the registration for voting is concerned. Previously, we used to wait until the last minute when we go to vote, to cast our votes. That's when we go to register. Unlike that, right now, we have come in a different way now. We are not going physically to cast our votes. We do this through online, which means that things are changing and we have to change as things go by. If you agree with me, ladies, sometimes you find them, they are 7 steps ahead of us, and that's why we want them to take the lead, and we are there to support them.
Did you have something to add on that, or we go to the next question?
I can add something to it. I personally think it's a cultural, we need to make a cultural shift, because it's a glaring omission. You know, if we go back to KISS, our home in Gusii, we have never elected a woman to parliament. Imagine that. I think that is something that has been built into the psyche of our ladies. I don't know why. Because of, I don't know, it's male chauvinism or what it is. I think it's something that our community needs to deal with. We have not given our ladies time to lead. Yes, we have repeatedly said they would do better, but I think the men also we need to do something about it. I don't know if it's the men who need to do something about it. The women also need to take up the challenge and not just leave the status quo as it is. It's time for them to actually come up, participate, and break the cycle, because having not elected a woman to parliament it's not a good history. It's a dark history for our people. I think we should try to break that cycle right here. That is why my thought was we should have more ladies running for these positions. And I'm going to ask Nama to run for president. I hope she heed my call.
Very good take. So here is a perspective that you guys might also want to think about. When you're talking about the election process, it doesn't necessarily mean that an individual has to willingly decide to run. Sometimes when situations are so needy as is now, it's also reasonable to approach somebody and request that somebody to stand up, run for office, and then surround that person with some very knowledgeable people who can push that person and organization further. So as we talk about this conversation, and I want to mention a few names here because I have tremendous respect for these ladies in our community. When we talk about a lack of leadership, particularly from the female side of it, I see here, and I apologize if this comes across as in a negative way. I do this because I have a lot of respect for these ladies. I see people like Patsy Mairura. Patsy, you all agree with me. She's been very active in our community. She's very respected in our community. There's no doubt about that. Elizabeth Marige, she's been in the lead in many, many aspects. I never miss her in any of our functions in the community. We have Pastor Zipporah Bogongo. A respectable woman, no doubt about that in our community. We have Lina Nyamwaya, for example. She's doing incredible job with the Nurses Association, and she's in social media. She's been very active. You see a young lady, Hulda Mumanyi Hitsa. She's fantastic. Surely, if you ask me, Gladys Nyamwari, Neema, Edith, Susan, Mabera, on all these ladies. I mention these ladies because I have tremendous respect for them. Did we turn them off? or did we turn all other women? Can we have them as a group so that they can anoint one of them to run for office? Yeah.
I think if you allow me, I can go faster to that. I am really honored just to thank you, Professor, for mentioning such names. Personally, I'm very close to those ladies that you have mentioned, and most of them have done